But first, as I was mentioning, May, if you didn't know, is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's very, very real, a very serious issue in our island community, and Jesrae Moylan and special guests will be right here on the show for Talk It Up Thursdays this month, helping to break the very real stigma of mental illness and start talking it up. She is the president and founder of TUMA, which stands for Talk Up Mental Health Awareness, and she joins me now on the KUM couch to tell me more about the mission of the organization and why they started. Jesrae, half a day, so good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so take me back if you would and everything. So people know because we've done stories on you and your colleagues already.
Yes.
You're reaching out to other people to expand the awareness of actually what mental health is, and it has been widely broadened in several years. But what is the origin of the organization and why'd you start?
So, you know, it is true. I've been with you for quite some time and sharing my story. And for those who don't know, TUMA came to life because back in 2017, so about 6 years ago this year, I lost my brother to suicide, and he was only 23 years old. So at that time in my life, and I'm not afraid to admit it, it's actually part of what I do in the community when I do share my story. And my testimony is I was unaware of mental health, what it meant to take care of your mental health. And I never knew about the challenges that he had because he was such a very bubbly person. He never projected that he was going through anything. And again, that was me being on the outside looking in and just assuming, right? So lost him to suicide, and it was probably the first time in my life that I experienced true heartache and a depth of pain that I didn't think I'd ever come out of. And so through that loss and that grief, I channeled that pain and I turned it into a purpose. And that's exactly what TUMA is today. So TUMA was his nickname, and it was a nickname given to him by my son. And so I wanted my kids to remember who he was. I never wanted them to forget who Uncle TUMA was. And so one day in the kitchen, I was just like, I need to use his name. What can I do with TUMA? And it just turned into the, coincidentally and quite eerie, the perfect acronym for Talk Up Mental Health Awareness. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. Is I love having conversations with people, and what I do in the community today with TUMA is just that. I have conversations about mental health and just suicide prevention. I tell people about resources that are available in the community for anyone who may need that extra support.
And I've talked to you a lot, Jesrae, over the years about, off camera, about, your own cathartic journey, if you will, like how actually having these conversations and opening up about your own confusion, your own pain has really, really helped you.
Absolutely.
How do you feel when you talk to people who are either, freshly going through something right now, or they're like, they've got a friend or they've got a loved one who's going through mental health, or they themselves are dealing with something like that? Do you actually share with them that, talking does help? And it's the toughest job in the world. It's hard as hell. But making the first step is essential.
Is talking about it, and with our organization, that is what we find that people want. They just want someone to talk to, and it's not necessarily me having to exchange in conversation. I've encountered people who just want someone to listen. So it's finding that balance of when you as the person listening should say something, and then when you don't need to say anything at all. But to be there and encourage people to talk about what they're going through, that's our goal, is breaking that stigma, because it applies to all demographics. Doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter, what you do in the community. Everybody needs or wants someone to just be able to have that open, vulnerable conversation with.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I don't know if this might be a tough question, but do you see your mission and your journey, and you're honoring, a sibling, and again, you're passing down, the life's legacy of your brother to your children. Do you see this as like an uphill battle because there is such a stigma about what mental health is and what it has become in the more modern day?
And I do,
that's a tough task.
It is,
honestly.
It is, and I've encountered it where some people who have asked me to come and talk it up, whether it's in their organization or even in schools, they create boundaries. And for me, I'm not about creating boundaries. I'm about creating a safe space for conversation in eliminating the things that I say, but not necessarily avoiding saying the words like kill or suicide. Because I think what a lot of people fail to realize with our youth today is they have so much access to knowing and learning and seeing things that even we don't want them to see at that age. But at the end of the day, it's navigating and creating that narrative to where it's healthy conversations. you know? So I have battled that, where some people are like, okay, we want you to talk about suicide, but don't say the word suicide. And I'm like, well, I can't do that, because suicide is real and suicide exists. And if you think they don't know what that word means, no offense, like, it's foolish, because they do know what it means. So why not narrate it to be where it's like, okay, what is suicide? Have you had thoughts about suicide? In those moments of thought, what do you feel, right? It's getting them to express their emotions, because the more they harbor it, the more it leads them to doing things that, you know, we don't want.
You're almost like attaching an identity to someone's crisis, or or someone's confusion, someone's pain.
And it's not wrong. Like, it's, I think for me, it's like, I try to balance people learning that in life, you're going to go through light, but you're also going to go through darkness. You're not going to live life without one or the other, right? It's yin and yang. So it's about being able to have these open conversations, not only when we're at the highest of highs, but what about when we're at our low, you know? So that's really my goal, is just to allow people to channel their emotions in healthy ways, right? And learning what resources we have in the community when my help, you know, for them to attain the appropriate care when I can't, all I can do is talk, right? Like, I can talk to you and have conversations, but that's the extent of what I'm capable of doing for you.
And I think it's your personality and your spirit, and this really does, you know, illustrate your character, that you do actually want to help. It's not just, okay, come on the show and talk to Jason for 5 minutes, or, you know, meet somebody, have a DM conversation with somebody. You are actually here to actually break through to someone and say, you know, there is light at the tunnel, end of the tunnel, like the right way to say. Yeah, how do you phrase that? You're the expert.
My brother's name is Ray. So again, I tie everything in. So I always say there's a ray of light. Right? There's a ray of hope, rays of hope. And the reason I say rays of hope is because no two people define hope the same. What's hope to me would be different for what hope is to you. But it's just to allow people to realize that whatever your hope is, right? Whatever you can hold on to just day by day, hold on to it, because there is a ray of light at the end of every storm or darkness, you know. And as cheesy or cliche as that sounds, it's the truth. I can't tell you or promise you when you're going to overcome it, but I do know that remaining hopeful is the one thing that allows people to continue day by day. And, you know, in our logo, we have a semicolon. So I'm not sure if people are familiar, but the semicolon movement is incredibly important with suicide prevention. So in writing, a period ends a sentence. A semicolon brings it to a pause. So part of that movement is to remind people that in your highs and your lows, you know, you just got to pause and reset. Right? Don't end your story. Continue moving forward. Just take that pause when necessary.
Interesting.
And keep moving forward.
That really makes a lot of sense. It's not too complex.
No.
It's not, you know, it's not overly, you know, sugar-coated, you know, pardon the expression. But yeah, that's really, really interesting.
Yes. So
everybody learns this.
Everyone. And, you know, for, like you said, I'm an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm so passionate at what I do. And despite not having certain credentials attached to my name, I think at the end of the day, what separates me from all of that is that I am incredibly passionate about what I do. I'm there to support someone in any way that I can. But of course, I know where my limits are, right? But at the same sense, I also am able to allow people to connect to the appropriate care that they need. And that's all I am. It's just an advocate for, hey, you need help, additional help. There is help. Like, I can help you get there.
Yeah, and you are amazing. You are genuine. You are true, but also you are not the only one at TUMA and everything, and this is a very, very large amount of work. So tell me about the rest of your team and what types of activities you've already undertaken.
Yes, so
because again, this is a pretty new project and everything like that. It's going to go on for a very, very long time.
It is, absolutely. And you know, my team is comprised with a bunch of, you know, amazing women, and what I love about our team is that each one of us have a lived experience with mental health. I'm considered a survivor of suicide because I lost someone, my sibling, to suicide. I have someone who, you know, is diagnosed with different mental illnesses, right? So she shares her story about being on medication, what it's like to finally live off of medication. I have someone who, you know, anxiety, like just different mental illnesses that they've been diagnosed with, and it's like we come together to be able to share our story of our experiences and how we were able to attain the care that we needed. Because I'm not invincible to that type of pain. You know, I can sit here and talk with you, but it doesn't mean I've sat here and not cried before while sharing my story.
Sure.
I've grown, and and that's where I know that I'm healing. And sharing my story and talking about it has been part of my healing journey, which is why I'm a believer that talking it up heals and it helps, you know?
Okay. Well, where can people find you, like, on social media? Because I know I've talked to many people who are veterans of U.S. military service.
Oh, yes.
And they say that reaching out to those who served before can be very, very difficult because, you know, you're still in that mentality where I have to be tough as nails, like I'm hardest of the hard, but then now I have to make myself vulnerable and expose like a side of myself that for years I trained to kind of like suppress and everything. So real quick, where can people like find you if they want to at least, you know, indirectly learn about your services?
Right now we only function off of Instagram, so at TUMA Guam.
That's the one to have?
Yes, and then we also have our website, which our website does have blogs. So we have different people who write to us about experiences because, again, stories connect us. And so we just feel when people read certain stories, they can read it and be like, oh, okay, she went through that, I'm not alone, you know, and that's the one thing anyone going through a challenge. It's so like empathy. They don't ever want to feel that they're alone. So our website, tumaguam.com, or even they can connect with us through TUMA Guam.
Well, you know what? That is the biggest strength of our community. Obviously, is strength in numbers and people coming together. And you know what? Speaking of volume, we are going to bring you many more of these segments throughout this month because Talk It Up Thursday comes to you each and every Thursday right here on the hotspot. There is that wonderful, wonderful logo. Jesrae and her team of amazing, compassionate women doing this. If there is anybody who wishes to join your cause, Jesrae, if they said I've either been through something or I may be a licensed clinician or I saw you and I want to. I'm in. I want to join the fight.
Well, actually, now that you bring it up, we have a nonprofit called Rays of Hope. And in that nonprofit, we actually conduct monthly mental health support groups. And in that organization, I do have a counselor. I have a grief recovery specialist. I have peer recovery specialists. Because like I said, at the end of the day, everyone's hope is defined differently. So someone might be more comfortable speaking with a peer versus an actual counselor, right? So it's just bridging everyone together to let them know, hey, there's no excuse. There's something there for you. It's just a matter of you finding what works best for you.
There you go. So that's Jesrae Moylan and her team at TUMA doing amazing work, very, very compassionate, a wonderful part of our island community. You know what? If you're watching this right now on YouTube or Facebook, rewind, go back, watch it again, rewatch it after that and everything like that. Really let Jesrae and her mission and her message sink in because they're doing absolutely amazing work and very, very necessary. So thank you, and we will see you next week.
Yes.
All right, and we will see you after this break.